think when people told you that they were voting for him because of the economy, they were lying. I think people voted for him because this country, too many people in this country couldn't even think about voting for a black female. But they don't want to say, they're not going to say, I'm not voting for her because she's a woman or she's black. God forbid she's both. Oh, and by the way, she's married to a Jewish guy. They're not going to say that. They're going to say, I'm voting for him because of the economy. They're liars.
Hold on. Completely agree with a lot of what you say. But when we say they're liars, we don't mean all of them. Put your best spin on. Why would
he's a good businessman. They think he was going to make us money.
A good businessman, do good for the economy, make money. Okay, smart guy. Why do good people vote for?
Let me be clear. I despise Joe Walsh, but...
immigration, that doesn't really have anything to do with me. Except if you now say, well, a few citizens are going to get scooped up off the street and sent to El Salvador or to wherever, they're only going to be worried if their kid is the one who gets snatched off a college campus and winds up in jail.
And when you have the president a few weeks ago out loud in the Oval Office talking about wanting to put American citizens on airplanes and fly them down. Hello.
The homegrown.
Yeah.
I find these conversations to be flat out fascinating.
I'm more concerned for the next generation and the one after that. I agree that everything's going to be way too expensive. People won't be able to afford homes and all that stuff. But I fear they're not going to live in a free country.
A free country, which goes to what you were saying.
I'm not going to let that happen.
Loss of basic freedom.
Not going to let that happen.
Yeah.
This conversation, per Walsh's Substack, was in the suburbs of Chicago, Glen Ellen, Illinois, to be exact.
I personally think the country is probably done.
Done.
I don't think it can.
Tell me what you mean by done.
Done. Democracy as we know it, I think is probably done. Because you're right. If two sides need therapy, I don't think there's a willingness on both sides to talk to each other. So it's not going to happen. And slowly, it's just going to grow farther and farther apart. I think.
And you think that's kind of on both sides, like the couple, neither couple really.
Well,
wants to
there's
sit.
extremists on both sides, and neither side wants to listen to the other. Right. And at least on one side, they're afraid if they speak their mind, what will happen to them.
Yeah.
So I don't see much of a future for the country, and
my personal feeling is that the politicians are not going to get it done, and that's why we're here. If we want to save democracy, I agree with you there, save our country. I think that people have to be willing to talk to each other. I have a really good friend from Michigan. Her family, since the first time Trump was in office, it's a big family. They're completely divided. They have nothing to do with each other anymore.
Because of this.
Yeah. And they just have not found a way to be able to talk to each other. I mean, you have to talk.
Okay, but let's cut to the chase, because life is short and none of us are in our 20s. We all got, I know I do, don't we all have people that we've kind of stopped engaging with because of politics
100%.
over the last 6, 8, all of us?
100%.
Friends, family members?
Yeah.
I won't talk politics around certain friends.
Even family
There are
members.
people. I mean, there are people in our neighborhood across the street that we'll be friendly with and say hello, but no desire to ever go over to their house again, ever.
Because of politics.
The divide, yes.
Now, this goes to show and also paints a picture of a very important point that many of us have been talking about and split on. Do you try to reach these people? I mean, I actually discussed this with Steve Hofstetter on my podcast, The Rick Strom Show. Here's a snippet.
Now, that said, every now and then someone just does show up, especially when I'm in a comedy club instead of a theater or a rock venue, because they're just like, hey, what's there to do today? And if there's one thing we know about that side of the coin, it's that they do not do their own research. So when that happens, I try to be as patient as possible because I try to reach them. Now, if they're being combative, yeah, I'll hit right back.
Sure.
But there's a video that went very, very viral of mine on TikTok. Someone actually, weirdly enough, someone who reshared it got millions of views when mine, because that's how the algorithm works.
100%.
But it's someone asking me about how can I, refer to myself as progressive while being unwilling to talk to the other side of the aisle. And I broke it down very patiently and explained that, like, I have conservative friends. I don't have MAGA friends, because conservative is a political and economic ideology. MAGA is a system of ethics. That's different. And so what I did, I was trying to reach this person, but more so, I was trying to give ammo to the other hundreds of people in the room who are going to go home for Thanksgiving and talk to their families.
Yes.
And I look at my social media that way too, is that I'm not going to convince someone that's coming at me swinging, but I would like to try to help give talking points to those who may have relationships with those people, if that makes sense.
It does. There's also an approach that is talk to everyone. Try to reach as many as possible. Do you, if that's the way that you want to conduct yourself. I am not going to stop you. But I agree with Steve's approach that it seems as though he will give it an effort. He'll give it the old college try. But there is a difference between conservative and MAGA, even though MAGA wants to conflate the two. And also, I think we saw that the Harris campaign tried to reach these people, and there just weren't that many. I think we learned that as well. But to Steve's point, we can try and try and try. It's also dependent on them to listen. So how many times, and I'm not saying don't do this, but how many times will you continue to talk to a wall, a fascistic wall that will not respond? Or will say you're fake news, or will say that you're lying, or will say you're not in favor because you don't like any sort of excuse we have seen under the sun when TYT has gone out to those rallies, when I've seen Walter Masterson question these people, when I've seen Adam Mockler question these people. We have the playbook. We have it. There's also this hope that's being held out, I feel, that many of these folks are saying, wait until the consequences of their vote hit them. And considering the power and disinformation spewed by the right within media, if they don't burst out of those echo chambers and have a coming down-to-earth moment and realizing maybe that's not right, maybe they're trying to just deceive me, I really don't know how to break through. Open to suggestions, but we are going up against I can't even put a price tag on it because it's so high, by billionaires who have so much money and will give folks like Tim Pool and Benny Johnson small crumbs in the grand scheme of things so they could retain as much wealth as possible. If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports, and or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.